Can you please stand for the pledge? Good evening, everyone. Under the provisions of the Public Meetings Law of the State of Missouri, the Board must adopt by roll call vote an agenda that includes the time, date, place, and tentative agenda for the meeting. A copy of the notice and agenda for this meeting was posted on Monday, November 12, 2018, at the Administration Center, 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri. Due to an oversight, copies of the notice and agenda were mailed today to major radio and television stations, to 3 newspapers, to all municipalities, schools in the district, and posted on the district website. May I please get a recommendation to adopt the agenda as posted?
So recommended. Second.
Ms. Harch?
Ms. Greenberg? Aye. Dr. Thurman?
Aye.
Mrs. Saltzman?
Aye.
Secretary Broussard, Mr. Chabot?
Aye.
Dr. Green?
Aye. Jessica Ponder will not be with us today. She did give birth to a healthy baby boy on Halloween. Dean Michael? Yeah, yes, Dean Michael. All righty. So this person isn't here, right? Okay, so just don't do it. We had a student that we were going to recognize tonight, but she's not here and due to the weather. So we will be doing it next month. So the next agenda item is our shared images of success.
Students, teachers, and staff all across the Ferguson-Florissant School District are experiencing success. On Saturday, November 3rd, the Challenger Learning Center celebrated their 15-year anniversary of innovation and space exploration in the St. Louis area. There were over 300 people who attended and enjoyed a fantastic space experience on the campus of McClure South Berkeley High School. The afternoon was filled with drone demonstrations, rocket launches, planetarium programs, flight simulations, and many other STEM-related hands-on activities. Even Buzz Lightyear made a visit. The award-winning Challenger Learning Center is a partnership of the Ferguson-Florissant School District, St. Louis Science Center, and Education Plus that has been inspiring the future generations of innovators for the past 15 years. Members of the McClure High School Key Club and Army JROTC, along with their sponsors, participated in World Food Day at John Burroughs High School on the evening of Friday, November 2nd. This is an annual activity for the students. The group worked hard for over 3 hours and packaged over 1,200 meals. Vogt Elementary is the recipient of more than $12,000 in school supplies from KidSmart and Six Flags as part of the KidSmart on the Go program. Representatives from the 2 organizations visited Vogt on Friday, November 9th, surprising staff and students with essential school supplies needed for academic success. Did you catch STEAM Academy's choir mini tour? On Tuesday, November 7th, STEAM's choir made a stop at the Missouri Veterans Home and Christian Northeast Hospital to sing patriotic songs in celebration of Veterans Day and Election Day. Although the students weren't old enough to vote, they encouraged those they performed for to participate in the democratic process. 4th grade student from Combs Elementary, Camden Court, has been chosen by KPLR 11 as their Weather Kid of the Week for the week of November 2nd, 2018. he had the chance to talk with meteorologist John Fuller on camera about his interest in weather science. You can learn more about these stories and other examples of the great learning happening in our district on our website and on social media.
This portion of the meeting is allocated to show a short video from the Missouri School Board Association to provide a report of current activities and events that may be of interest to board members and the community.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Missouri School Boards Association's board report for the month of November. We thank you for the opportunity to share some news and information during a few minutes of your board meeting. We begin with a look at the issue of attracting young people to the teaching profession and retaining them after they begin their teaching careers. In the past 10 years, there's been a 23% decrease in college students going into teacher education programs nationwide. In addition, more than half the adults surveyed in the most recent Phi Delta Kappa poll of the public's attitudes toward the public schools said they would not want a child of theirs to become a teacher, a majority for the first time since that question was first asked in 1969. Missouri's 2019 Teacher of the Year, Shelley Parks, told an audience at the recent MSBA annual conference that has to change. She says it's critical that we attract young people to a profession she loves and retain the teachers we have. But she says we need to ask ourselves some hard questions.
Are we and our schools putting funds towards programs that encourage future teachers? Are we being relational with the teachers we do have to make them feel valued and appreciated? Are we supporting and encouraging our teachers? And are we celebrating our schools so that people realize how truly awesome public education is?
Parks works as a high school English teacher in the Francis Howell School District. She will serve as Missouri's representative to the National Teacher of the Year competition. Nearly 250,000 Missouri high school students and adults take part in career education training programs in high schools, area career centers, and higher education institutions throughout the state. Training programs are offered in fields such as agriculture, business, health science, and technology and engineering. There's a new emphasis on the importance of career education as a way to prepare young people for jobs that are in high demand. The issue was brought up during a panel discussion with members of the State Board of Education at the recent MSBA annual conference. A new member of the State Board, Dr. Don Claycomb, retired after serving as president of State Technical College in Lynn, and he says it's critical for school leaders to listen to the business community so our schools can produce the employees they need.
We expect to have people coming out of that program who have the skills, the knowledge, and the attitude that we need for them to start working in our company. And I think that when we have advisory committees, for example, and that's one of the most efficient, effective ways to work with the employee community, it's important that we listen to what those advisors have to say from business and industry, and that we do everything we can to turn out that product that they are looking for.
Governor Parson has made workforce development a top priority of his administration. The State Board of Education has narrowed the field of candidates for the position of Commissioner of Education to 4 and plans to interview those individuals this month. State Board of Education President Charlie Shields announced at the October State Board meeting there were 5 applications and 7 nominations for the position. The names of the 4 finalists remain confidential. The State Board hopes to have a permanent commissioner on the job by the first of the year. Filing for school board seats up for election in April opens December 11th in most school districts in the state. MSBA has a number of free resources available to school board candidates posted on the MSBA website, including a candidate's guide to running for the school board and information on the roles and responsibilities of school boards. Filing for school board seats closes on January 15th. That's it for this month's edition of the MSBA Board Report. Thanks for allowing us to have some time at your board meeting, and so long from Columbia.
This portion of the meeting is allocated for the board to provide an update of current activities and events in the district that may be of special interest to the board members and the community. Mr. Scott Ebert.
Well, hello, everyone. Thanks for braving the future, shall we say, snow coming. Can we just call the day off tomorrow? What the heck? I want kids to like me, Anyway, on a more serious note, I want to say, and honor our veterans. We didn't get a chance to, the way the board meeting fell, I was able to go to a special event for Veterans Day at a nursing home, and hearing some of these World War II and Korean veterans really gave me pause to see, how wonderful of a nation we actually live in. I know we do, but you just sometimes, with all the bickering on political sides and throughout all kinds of areas of our nation, I sat there and thought, there's a reason that caravan, I don't know how many are in it now, thousands, are trying to get here. And it's really on the back of those brave, men and women who fought for this nation and its freedom. And when you think about it, a lot of them were kids, 17 years old and things like that. So I just wanted to honor the veterans. The other subject I wanted to bring up was, we've been having, and people, see it on the news and things like that, we've been having some issues, and have for off and on. I mean, I don't want to paint this as an ugly picture, but we've had some weapons come into our schools. And I challenge the board to really, shall we say, address this issue. I'm very concerned for our kids and our staff. I know I've been a proponent of metal detectors and things like that, and that's just things, sadly, that's where I believe our society is. I mean, my kids have to go through that when they go to Six Flags, or I have to go through it when we go to the ball game. And I think about it a lot, and I just think that we've gotten lucky, and it worries me of what it could be. And I honestly think we're just putting the inevitable off anyway. Sooner or later, that's going to probably be a standard for all schools. And as far as the money goes, I'll just say, can anyone even imagine the lawsuit that we would have if one of our children or staff members in any way got hurt? And that's really insignificant to the loved ones that we cherish in our lives and as part of this district. So that's been really weighing heavy on me lately, and I really hope we can do a better job with that. So that's all I have.
Thank you, Mr. Ebert. Dr. Thurman.
Good evening, everyone. I too would like to acknowledge our veterans and say thank you for your sacrifices. My part of the strategic plan is school decorum. During the month of October, PBIS, that's our Positive Behavior Intervention Specialists, our instructors and administration participated in professional learning, and they explored rudimentary analysis and discussion of this district building discipline trends, and also a discussion of current and potential in-school suspension structures. But participants were exposed to materials through professional readings and video, collaborative discussion, presentation to peers, and restorative practice concepts. Excuse me, I've got a little something there. Each participant completed an exit ticket pertaining to what concepts or questions from the session they would take back to their buildings for implementation. Discipline data for highlights for now. Class disruptions are down 3% from this time last year. 11 schools in the district have less referrals this year than last year at this time. The following schools are to be commended for their work on decorum: Berkeley Middle School, Commons Lane, Cool Valley, Halls Ferry, Holman Elementary, Johnson Wabash, McClure South Berkeley, Parker Road, Robinwood, Vogt, and Wedgwood. The district is committed to the plan of having all students follow our student expectation code so that they are in a class every day receiving instruction and exhibiting a climate of good decorum. So I want to say thank you to those teachers and administrators out there who are doing the work. I do to echo the concern about discipline and weapons in our schools. And I just hope and pray that we will continue to head in the direction that our district seems to be headed in terms of keeping discipline down, and especially as it relates to weapons in our school. So again, thank you to administration, teachers, for your support and your help. That's all that I have.
Thank you, Dr. Thurman. Ms. Hogshead?
Good evening. I would like to ask if we have any veterans in the audience for them to stand, since we've all talked about them and recognized them. So I would just want to thank you very much for your service. All right, Rob. We've talked about freedom and things, and I, as a child, World War II, I was not in World War II. I was a 50s girl in the 50s. But that was very prevalent with my uncles being in World War II and all my friends' fathers, and then my husband being in Vietnam. And so it just gives you a lot of different insights into what the world's about. And the older you get, the more you learn about it. So I definitely want to thank all of our veterans that are here tonight. I'm on the Human Resources Talent portion, and much of the department work is focused on planning for staff placement in preparation for the district's restructuring. The team has been working with the technology department to create a database for staff placement choice that will take into account certification and seniority automatically. Additionally, the work to continuously improve the work of the department continues as well. We can see this work in the following examples: professional development software integration, HR data integrity to ensure all data is correct no matter the age of the file. This one really amazed me a little bit. The HR team is also working with the 34 staff members who are on FMLA leave, as well as 25 employees who are on parental leave. So we must have a lot of babies in our district, which is good. It'll help us grow. We remain one of the few school districts in the Midwest that offers a parental leave benefit for staff. Additionally, the department continues to transition substitute service to ESS. ESS will launch across the district the first week of December. Team members attended the UMSL Winter Job Fair and met with December graduates to garner their interest in the district in hopes that they will apply to begin their teaching careers. And team members also attended the National American Association for Employment and Education Jobs Fair held in downtown St. Louis. So I'd like to thank our HR talent department for all the hard work that they're doing in bettering our district. I would also like to wish everybody a very happy Thanksgiving, and I am thankful that you're all in our lives and are so concerned and caring about our school district.
Thank you, Ms. Hogshead. I will be reading Jessica Ponder's report. Her portion of the strategic plan is achievement and accreditation. Mr. Eric Brown and a group of students presented at the State Project Lead the Way Conference, highlighting the great work students are doing with Project Lead the Way program. Planning for advisory time for the new high school block schedule is underway. The goal is to support students with academics, social emotional learning, and college and career readiness as part of the regular school day. Pre-registration for the 2019-2020 school year is beginning in the coming weeks. Check the website for an interactive college and career planning guide. Curriculum specialists are continuing providing professional development using the lesson study format to further support improvements in both teaching and learning in ELA and science. Sarah Winstead was received the Emerson Excellence in Teaching Award and was recognized on November 11th at the annual dinner. Ms. Winstead currently teaches science at McClure High School. We are very proud of her achievements. Our next District PD Day takes place on November 19th. We will continue to focus on 4-year goals for argumentative writing, as well as block scheduling, instructional practices, and peer observations as part of the professional learning cycle. On November 20th, the district administration team, including cabinet members, building principals, assistant principals, instructional coaches, and curriculum specialists will participate in the 4th session of equity training with educational equity consultants. And last, we conducted our 2nd guided visit at McClure North High School and Airport Elementary Schools. Areas of feedback included opportunities to respond and science instruction. We will now have Ms. Harch.
Good evening, everyone. And I also want to honor our veterans for everything you have done and are doing for our country. And thank you for coming out for our snow warning tonight. It's nice to see you. And I want to thank everybody for coming out in October for the Little Creek's 50th anniversary. It was a nice day, and we had a good turnout. And I don't know if any of you know this, but we are one of the 3 school districts in the nation that have a park. And they also have a Pullman Cemetery at Little Creek. I didn't know, so I learned some things. They were showing a film of everything. It was very nice. I have the community engagement for stakeholders, and we are always actively working to build our community in a lot of meaningful ways. This week, the district launched a new teacher communication module for ParentLink, our new mass notification system. This will give teachers enhanced tools to keep parents informed about their child's progress. You should be receiving messages regarding your child and school and district events. If you are not receiving messages from your child's school, please contact the office to be certain that you have the correct contact information. The number is 314-687-1912. Having accurate contact information on files help you stay informed from day-to-day events, but especially important in the event of an emergency or when there's inclement weather. Everyone wants to know when there's a snow day. We're excited to announce the new district mobile app is almost ready to launch. Watch for the announcement very soon. The mobile app will be the place to find all the important information about the district and specifically about your child. You'll see links to the parent portal, news, notifications, sports in a directory, and much more. You'll have the option to choose to receive news from the school your child or children attend, so the information you receive is much more specific to your needs. Also, you'll receive emergency and weather-related notifications directly in the app. So these are just some of the ways the district is connecting with our stakeholders. Don't forget to go up on our fergfloor.org website for everything. It's user-friendly, has everything you wanted to know, and some. The district is committed to building connections with stakeholders for the benefit of all our students. Thank you.
Thank you, Ms. Harch. Mr. Chabot.
Good evening, everyone. I'm with the Infrastructure and Processes for the Strategic Planning. Technology Department wanted me to send the word out, and they're also going to be sending messages out throughout the school district that they are going to be sending out applications, grant applications for teachers to apply for a tub of 6 Chromebooks to use in their classroom next semester. They hope to have at least 10 of these tubs available. So if you're a teacher, building level administrators, be on the lookout for that, and make sure you spread the word to get the applications turned in. Mr. O'Neill with facilities once again filled our consent agenda with a bunch of stuff, replacing chillers, pavement, roofing, stuff like that. But there is one particular item that's really important, and it's about we're buying salt. Is he here? There you are. I just want to make sure we do have enough salt to get all the kids to school tomorrow, right? All right. Because, I mean, I got my truck. I can go to Home Depot, get some. We'll spread it on the roads, all right? Because this thing about snow day, I do remember we voted not to have snow days, so I don't get that. There's no snow days. But anyways, yeah, so I guess we're buying a bunch of salt to make sure that, you know, everybody's safe. So that's all I have, so thank you very much.
Good evening, everyone. Last month, we as a board made the decision to change the trajectory of the education for all students in the Ferguson-Florissant School District. We chose to place high priority on providing a quality education for our early learners in our community. We chose to create opportunities for our youth who face significant challenges in our schools by creating an innovation school. We chose to focus on ensuring that all our students graduate ready for college, career, and life. Our goal was to be bold and rethink education to be equitable for all students. With that being said, the decision that we made has been viewed as unfavorable to many stakeholders in the community. When I was on the campaign trail, I stated that our schools are the glue that holds our communities together. The decision we made has divided our One District United community, and we must do something to bring the community back together. Many who frequently attend our board meetings know that I place a high value on ensuring that we have an equitable education for all of our students. This continues to be a high priority for me. As we move forward, we must focus an equity lens on the decisions and the choices that we make. In April of this year, we adopted an equity resolution. In the resolution, we stated that we will focus on creating barrier-free environments where all our students have the opportunity to benefit equitably. To implement with fidelity, I am requesting as board president that we establish an equity committee that is made up of board members, administrators, teachers, support staff, students, parents, community members, and other stakeholders. The mission of this equity committee will be to advise the district and act as a community catalyst for improving student success among students from racial and ethnic minority groups, economically disadvantaged backgrounds, LGBTQIA students, students who have disabilities, and students who speak languages other than English. Achieving equity is a shared responsibility between the community and the district, and it can only be achieved through mutual responsibility. The Equity Committee will make recommendations for board consideration. So this is something that I would like to bring as an agenda item at our December meeting so the committee can begin meeting in January of 2019. And that's all I had to report. Now we will have the FFNEA representative, Stacy Hendry and Debbie Hager.
Good evening, board members and stakeholders. I am Stacy Hendry. I am a teacher at Holman Elementary. I am the current secretary of FFNEA, and I am also the Minority Affairs Chair. With me, I have Debbie Hager, who is our FFNEA current treasurer and the nurse at Duchesne. Let me begin with a celebration of our educational support personnel on the day during American Education Week, specifically set aside to recognize their importance in a well-functioning school district. Thank you for the support you do every day to make FFSD, a better place to learn and to work. In conjunction with this, a few FFNEA ESP members attended Missouri NEA ESP conference here in St. Louis recently. This was an opportunity to support these members with issues applicable to our ESP staff. It is our hope that these members will share their learning to the benefit of our ESP staff. I would also like to use this opportunity to state something fairly obvious. Staff are excited but concerned about the process for restructuring and its impact on them personally. The more quickly and accurately the process can be communicated to them, the better. The FFNEA looks forward to working with the board and administration to assure an equitable process in line with our collective bargaining agreement. Thank you again, and have a good evening.
Thank you, FFNEA. Dr. Davis?
Thank you, Dr. Graves. Good evening, everybody. I'd like to start out by to ask you to join me in a moment of silence. We had a student, Walter Porter, who was a junior at McClure North, who passed away in his sleep back in October, and some of you may have known about that, and so we've been certainly trying to support the family and just thinking about the family. So if you would join me at this time in a moment of silence for Walter. Thank you. Also, I wanted to do some of what everybody else has already done, but I at least wanted to acknowledge our veterans. Again, I appreciate all of you for the work you've done. My father-in-law, I never joined the military, although I tried to. My grandmother wouldn't let me. But I have so much respect for our veterans, and you know, I currently have a nephew who just joined the Navy. So thank you for your service to our community, to our country, so that we can live in the ways that we do. I don't take it lightly, and every time I get a chance to thank a veteran or someone who has served or is serving, I want to show you my gratitude. Also, I want to recognize our teachers, all of our teachers. We have a few in the building this afternoon. Teachers and other employees who work in our district, just stand up for a moment. We want to recognize you. Our teachers, our nurses, our ESPs. This is American Education Week, so let's give them a round of applause. Our principals also, we have some principals stand up as well. We want to recognize them because they help get that work done. Awesome. This is American Education Week, and we always want to recognize our educators for working hard on the behalf of our students. It is quality teachers and adults in buildings that make the difference. A couple of things here I wanted to acknowledge. Mr. Chabot was correct in that we don't have any snow days, which means that if we have to close school, then we will have to do some makeups in some ways. The new policy doesn't take effect until the hours, 1,044 hours doesn't take effect until next year, so we have 174 days that we have to be in school. And because of the tightness of our calendar this year, we don't have any built-in days. That doesn't stop the weather from coming, though. So we're going to, try to move forward with as much prudency as possible. Also, a couple of things here that I wanted to say to the community. Last month, the board approved in-class. We've been focusing on what we call our AAA pledge, attendance, academics, and attitude. Always focusing on those broad buckets because those are the things that we do this work for. Attendance is one of those areas that we've been going really deep around, and while there's only 10 points on our APR score, it's significant because we need our children here in order to educate them well. But we will be sending out our in-class research through Harvard right after the Thanksgiving holiday because we are being specific on those students who aren't coming to school like we need them to. And hopefully we'll be able to see some mileage there. Specifically, though, so for those who may not have been here, that research is really around looking at the behaviors of students who don't come to school on a regular basis like we need them to. And we will send out mailers, and we use the data. We constantly look at their data for those who aren't coming, but we also let the parents of those students know how their attendance compares to the average student in their schools. So it gives you a good sense of not just, because most parents, when they look at students' attendance, they don't think their students are doing maybe as poorly in attendance as they are. But acknowledging that and showing parents where kids are in their attendance, what the research has shown is that it really improves students being aware and changes their behavior. So we're going to work hard on that because that attendance is really, really important. Kevin is going to be speaking in just a bit about, later on in the agenda rather, about the restructuring process, and he's going to go through the timeline. So we did put the timeline out. We said this last school year, and we tried to hold to our agenda and our schedule in terms of this whole restructuring process. So on November 1st, we put out the timeline that carries us all the way until August of 2019 with this entire process, going all the way back to December of 2017 when we began our meetings. So he'll be talking about that a little bit later on in the meeting. I do want to acknowledge those bookends that we've been talking about, early ed, as well as our high school transformation work that's underway. We have a huge donor who has been a proponent of early education. We've been able to do some really nice things for our students who are our 2-, 3-, and 4-year-old students. And the support of our donor, as well as some of the monies we get from our state, really helps us to be able to offer more early education for our students. Specifically, though, we've been able to open up 2 new classrooms for our early ed students, and specifically focusing on getting rid of that waiting list so we can serve more students in our district. Both of our rooms that we've opened, those 2 extra ones, one both at Bermuda and also at Airport, both rooms operate on a full day, Monday through Friday. What we had in the past was some of those classes were 4 days and some were half days. And we've gone to full days, 5 days, and we've gotten more interest from parents who need that. And it's been really supportive of them and their families and their homes. And so we're glad that that's happening. We feel like there's a whole lot more out there. And so with the wait list we have, so we're working hard to try to serve our families. If we can get our children in early, certainly that makes the difference. And we want them, I want them before 2 years before they get to kindergarten, so that we can have a great chance at giving them a best chance at life. Also, with that bookends, I want to acknowledge also the efforts around our AP, IB, and our STEAM. We've been really going deep around that. We've submitted our application at North for our IB program. We're in the candidacy phase, and hopefully we'll get authorized. More of our students are taking AP classes than ever before. We've gone in some instances where we had about 200 students at a school taking AP classes to almost 700 students not only taking AP courses, looking at those grades and also them testing. We've had a couple of instances where students have gotten really, really high scores, and so as you begin doing more AP and students are engaging in more rigor, certainly it's difficult, but over time what you find is that improves. And that's what we're really excited about, is our students are being exposed to it. I want every student who goes through our district to at least leave here with 3 college hours of credit. Whether they go to college or not, it's up to them, but I want them to experience it so they leave here with some skills that they can be marketable, whether it's college or work or whatever their choice is. And so I wanted to say that. A couple more things and I'll be done here is our principal lab days. So we started those, our first one was October 30th and 31st. And so let me say academically what that means. We always talk about reading and math, and those things are really important, and I'm a math teacher, and I think it's really critical, though. Teachers need support. You heard our teacher of the year talking specifically about that. Teachers are valued. They're the ones who make it happen. The instructional core, what's happening between teachers, students, and content. Nothing's more critical in any district, charter school or whatever the case is, than those 3 things. What the teacher's doing, the student's doing, and that content that students are engaging in with the teacher. And so, but our principals have to be able to support that, right? Like, they have to be learners as well. And we've been spending time with our principals, going deep around instructional practices. They have supervisors, and and my job is to support this principal supervisors who are in those schools. 70 to 80% of the time is in school buildings, supporting principals and teachers, walking through classrooms. I walk through classrooms myself, having conversations. So in our principal lab days, we spend a good bit of time going in classrooms, specifically looking at instruction. And so the last couple of months, we've been focusing on science. Tiffany, who was a former AP, our chief academic officer, former AP chemistry teacher herself, we've been going deep around that science, because this year science will count in our APR in 2019. And it worries me when, if we don't have the right structures in place so students are experiencing what they need to know. I'm not talking about test taking strategies. I'm not talking about figuring out how to, eliminate 2 questions so you can get the 3rd one. I'm talking about students getting content. If you have the content, tests will take care of themselves. And so that's where our principal lab days have allowed us to go deep around that content, especially for our adults. And so with using MySci and some other resources, what we found is that we got a lot of work to do, but the work is underway, and it's a good thing. So I'm excited about what that's looking like. We do expect to get our APR from 2018, at least preliminary data, right after Thanksgiving. We haven't gotten that yet because of the testing changing last year. We hope to get that soon. The official number won't roll out, I think, until February, but at least I think we'll have some data to give us some indicators. We already do know our graduation rate from 2018 is up to 86.6, so that's pretty awesome. 4 years ago, we were at 74.2, and that's been intentional. It's not haphazard. Schools have been focusing on who the kids are, where they are, making sure they're in our buildings and are getting the content they need, getting the credits they need, getting college ready. Whether they go or not, it's their business. It's our duty to make sure you have what you need if you want to go to Mizzou or if you want to go to wherever. You need to have the right courses, especially our athletes. We have so many students who are athletes and can't go to Division I schools, not because they can't. It's just not giving them the right path. What is that core GPA? What are the right classes that you need to take so that you can be eligible? If you have the athletic ability, have the academics in line so that you can get there. I need you to go to the NFL and make millions of dollars so you can donate back to Ferg Floor. That's what I want. But we got to prepare them for that. So I'll end by saying that next week, of course, is Thanksgiving. And I like to use the word, I'm thankful, but I like to use the word grateful. I'm grateful for the chance to serve, especially our children, to make sure they get an education. Being first-generation college, I'm telling you, there's nothing more pleasing to me. I had someone ask the question not too long ago, like when you go home at night, what is the one thing that can make you say this was a good day? And I can tell you, as a daddy, what makes a good day for me is when I go home and I'm going to give you a specific example of when we had a principal lab day at airport last week, the week of Halloween. And so to me, a good day is when I go in a classroom and I see one of my babies engaging in content in ways that are so beautiful. They were talking about solar energy, and they were building a windmill and talking about how that generator within that windmill transfers the energy uses the windmill, the turbine rather, to make energy. And to see them thinking about that experience and asking the kinds of content-based questions that causes you to wonder about the question they're asking is beautiful when that little mind does that. And that's the stuff that we want in our district, is that our kids are being exposed to the kind of content they need to be successful. So happy Thanksgiving. I'm grateful to serve. And I hope you all have a wonderful, wonderful Thanksgiving.
Thank you, Dr. Davis. The board allocates this portion of the meeting to allow stakeholders the opportunity to comment on both agenda items and non-agenda items at the start of each board meeting. Prior to the public comment period, participants are asked to fill out a comment card with their name, address, and phone number, email address, and topics to be addressed, and will be allowed up to 3 minutes to speak. Members of the audience who wish to speak to the board are requested to speak from the podium, identify themselves in keeping with district policies 4054, 4059, and personnel law, should refrain from making negative comments that are personally identifiable. While the board will not directly respond to speakers during the public comment period, the board president may make clarifying remarks at the end of the comment session to correct any misstatement of facts. We will now have Robin Browning.
Good evening. I'm Robin Browning. I am a graduate of McClure High School, class of 1996. I have a prepared letter from retired teacher, and she writes, I am a retired Ferguson-Florissant School District teacher. I taught at Berkeley High School until the merger, and then for Ferguson-Florissant for a total of 34 years in the district. I was Teacher of the Year in 1996. So in view of all things, Ferguson-Florissant is a very important district to me. I agree with the new superintendent that reading is a core issue, problem in the district. The last 2 years I taught was in 2002 through 2004. I tested incoming Berkeley High freshmen, and 25% of them had reading levels of 6th grade or below. They might as well be reading a foreign language as to do well on the exams. So he is correct about that issue. That issue has needed addressing for years. Where the superintendent is not correct is that merging McCluer South Berkeley with McCluer will not solve the reading problem and will create other problems. Small schools and small classes with reading teachers is the answer. Students who do not read well were too mobile. Some have been in as many as 6 to 8 schools by 9th grade. Also, Berkeley, the city, has an 81-year proud history with the Bulldogs. Very devoted alumni, and now, no high school at all. It was bad enough that it was moved out of the Berkeley, but now, no Berkeley? I thought the merger, which sadly dissolved Kinloch High School, was to keep Berkeley High intact. I might be remembering incorrectly, but I do know that a high school, even small, is deserved in the south end of the district. The STEAM young people can be there too, or in the new expensive building that there was money for. But somehow, even though we had a perfectly good administrative building in a very handy location by McCluer North. Please reconsider your decision and preserve the Bulldog tradition for the Berkeley community. They have suffered the most from the merger, and they are the ones with the very supportive Boeing money. Sincerely, Jane Newcomb, Ferguson-Florissant School District, retired social studies teacher. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now have Tony Jeffrey.
It was good to hear Ms. Newcomb chime in. I am a former student of hers. I wanted to say thank you, Courtney Graves, for your sensitivity in the situation that we're facing as Berkeley alum and the in forward thinking about the equity committee. I appreciate that. I'm no longer a citizen of Berkeley, but I am a concerned citizen of my hometown. I've watched from afar and recognized that I was very proud to see one of our Berkeley alum be voted in as a president of this board. I always thought that that would keep us in a situation as a school to where we wouldn't have to fight anymore about keeping Berkeley High intact. At worst, I thought we would have to contend with just at least keeping Berkeley name on McCluer South, which as an alum, that was pretty much a slap in the face within itself. Why couldn't our school name stay? We felt frustrated by that. We felt unheard by that. And then the meeting and the election that was ensued from last month really put us in a position where we felt like there is nothing we can do. And so I came in with these numbers and things of that nature to try and reflect what I feel like would be a massive impact on this community, but I thought it's a moot point because I'm sure that you've done what you feel like you needed to do in order to make the decision that you made. But I don't know if you've taken into consideration that it seems to me, the conversations that I've had, consistently, there is one word that continues to come up, and it's gentrification. And it seems to me that this move to continue to pull schools away from our city, our beloved city, is aiding in that process. It may not be on the surface what is anybody's attempt in order to get accomplished, but this is actually moving us in that particular direction. I've heard you, Dr. Davis, mention that the graduation rate has increased. It seems to be about 14%. I don't understand how moving kids around the way that we're moving them will continue to steady that course. It seems that it would disrupt that. And so I thank you for your time. I would that you all would reconsider. It seems to me that if we were finished, if option one would have stayed on the table and reconsidered, it seems like that much of the strain that we feel as an alumni base probably wouldn't even be here. Thank you.
Thank you so much. We will now have Mildred Clines.
Good evening. I would like to honor the veterans as well. Thank you for your service. So I don't want to make this very personal behind this microphone. I'll do that at a later time. But the members who voted for option 2, you failed our children. I can be corrected. If my percentages are, if my understanding of the percentages of the district students, the demographic of the students here in the district, it's around 87% African American. Overwhelmingly, the community, the parents, and the students publicly made you aware that we wanted option 1. It was so telling that the 4 white members voted for option 2 of the redistricting plan, and the African American members voted for option 1, as they did listen to the parents, the students, and the community. I saw this disregard for the parents' wishes before. When the board members voted 4-3 to not allow the children whom the tickets had been purchased for to go to a school event to see the Black Panther. You're going down the wrong path when you think you know better than the parents. I will not be a responsible community partner, and I've been a member of this community for 30 years, if I didn't constantly remind everyone that the 4 white school board members voted to devastate our African American children in our Berkeley and the southeast part of Ferguson. So yes, as often as I get an opportunity, I'm going to remind everybody of how you all voted.
Thank you, Ms. Clines. We will now have Mr. Ossie Robinson.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Dr. Davis. Question is, what is the student population of the STEAM school presently? That's the first question. So then the next question is, then when will there be sufficient high school students at the McClure South Berkeley location that would justify, okay, good utilization of that space? Other concern is, if we're looking at every community of our district and the well-being of that district with the aspiration and the hopes of the citizens of that community being vested in the district, why would we close Airport, which is more centrally in Berkeley, and keep Holman, which is on the fringe of the community, keep that school open? I don't understand that logic. So any enlightenment that you can give to the community on that, I think, is significant. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Robinson. Mr. McClendon.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
Thank you for the honoree of being called honoring the veterans and saying I really appreciate that. Did 21 years in the Navy. I retired from it. The issue that I have tonight is NEA, the celebration of teachers, and the clip that you showed from the state school board, and the president of the, the teacher of the year for the state she made a comment, made several comments in regards to teachers and how teachers are being presented and how teachers are being celebrated. That's not happening here in Ferguson, Florissant. Because anytime that you take, NEA, please listen real good. Anytime that you take a district and upset it, like you have in the last 3 years, it's horrible. The last 3 years have been chaos for our teachers and administration. You've moved people around, you did this, you did that, and where are we? Nowhere. Accreditation is about, like Scott says, we're second from the bottom. So what are we doing? Nothing. All we're doing is moving people around, partiality, whatever way you want to call it. We need to take some steps on that. Dr. Davis mentioned something about Airport School and about what the kids are doing over there with the solar program. Do you realize next year those kids will be bused from there? Those kids that you just got through talking about with the solar program and this, that, and the other, those kids will be bused. Those kids will be getting up at 6 or 7 o'clock in the morning, standing on a dark street, catching a bus. It really doesn't matter to you because you're not from this area. You never took into consideration of whatever's going on. So I can understand where you're coming from. Dr. Graves, the EQUIT committee that you mentioned, was that I hope that was a motion that you were making. But one thing I think is too late. The equity program should have been always in effect in the city of, in the Ferguson Florissant School District. A lot of things we make, board members make decisions and make comments, you're a day late and $1 short. And I think those are the issues that we need to address. And our district is, where are we? Where are we going from here? Chaos. The staff don't know what they're doing. That time frame that you gave, nobody really knows nothing. It's not a definite thing. If you're going to do this or you're going to do A, you're going to still go to Z. You just said A, and you will not continue to go to Z because they really don't even know what the staff is going to do or where they're going. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. McClendon. Ms. Mitchum.
Laverne Mitchum. Good evening, board members.
Good evening.
I have two concerns this evening to present to you. One, removing 400 and something students from McClure, South Berkeley. You're making that move, from what I'm told, to put 40 STEAM students in that building. I am told that this is to happen in August 2019. The problem with that is you're moving students who already have an allegiance to their school. And these very students, at this moment, they're upset, they're feeling like their board cares nothing about their feelings. They're going through emotional stress, even though it hasn't happened yet. I feel like this. The STEAM program and the students who are already at McClure, South Berkeley, why can't they all be housed together? 40 students in a building with a capacity of 800? And maybe you're thinking that the STEAM students, the enrollment will really progress, but I doubt if it'll progress that soon. And then you'll have students who feel like they were just kicked out of their school. That's not right. I'm concerned that this will cause conflict, division among our students, as well as our community. And we all know we got enough division and conflict going on in this country right now. But this will happen locally if this is done. I really believe that. I really believe the board should reconsider this, should seriously reconsider this. Also, Airport Elementary, it rated higher than Holman on your assessment evaluation. It rated higher in the different categories that you had. I realized that safety and crime was mentioned in terms of Airport, but I have no doubt that Mayor Hoskins and the Berkeley community will get together and do whatever they have to do to make sure our children are safe. As have already been said, schools are foundational to communities. I appeal to this board, again, to rethink all of this so that we won't have another division and conflict and kids that feel like their board doesn't care about them.
Thank you, Ms. Mitchell. And now we have Ms. Judy Ferguson-Shaw.
So good evening, everyone. I had several questions, and some of them have already been asked. But last month at the board meeting, there was one board member that ranted and raved and kicked up the fuss for quite a while we only get 3 minutes. That person, I think, got 5 minutes at least. And I felt really bad about that because I was thinking maybe there should be an opportunity for public comments after the board has finished with its comments to just come back and let you know how we feel about it. But a question I have is, how does closing Berkeley High School increase student achievement, especially when you know that those children are going to be emotionally upset going into a new school that they consider a rival? I thought back on, again, the kids coming out of Kinloch and went into McClure North High School. They had a really hard time, and many of them didn't graduate high school, so I wonder if the board has any records on how well that took place. So since I know that some board members have never experienced having their children upset and taken out of school, because I don't think any of the board members have their children moving to another school. Their kids get to stay at their school and they're safe and they feel comfortable. And they'll be the ones who are having to make room for these other kids who are coming in and taking their space. So is the board doing anything to help these children to make sure that they will be welcomed in? I see my time is running. So I'm going to jump down to the bottom line and say, I'd like to ask you once again, you've got your, what do you call it? You've got AP programs, you've got your IB programs, you've got your STEAM program. At McClure North, you've got an IB program. Are you going to take all of the kids out of McClure North who are not in the IB program, or is that IB program for all of them? And if it be for all of them, which I think it is, why is it that you can't allow the children at Berkeley High School who are there to stay in their school and finish high school with the children of the STEAM program who are coming in? I don't understand why they have to be displaced. And I did hear the board members say that he was looking forward to bringing in all of these private kids from private schools. Do you know that children, parents who put their kids in private school, they're not going to take their kids out of private school to bring them to our STEAM program? All of the school districts in this area have parents who put their kids in private school, and they put them there for a reason, and it's various reasons. They're not going to fill up McClure South Berkeley High School. What we need to do is concentrate on educating our kids who are already our kids and in our schools, and that we are failing. Please. Thank you.
Thank you. We will now have Dr. Paul Ziegler, Executive Director of Education Plus, who will provide an overview of the services Education Plus provides and how the district in the St. Louis area access these services.
Good evening, and thank you for the opportunity. My name is Paul Ziegler. As you said, I'm starting my second year as Executive Director at Ed Plus, and we're celebrating 90 years this year, so I'm trying to make it to all 53 member districts to share kind of what we do and how we interact with you all. So who are we at Education Plus? We're 53 districts, as I said. That accounts for over 500 schools, 29,000 plus educators, and almost 300,000 students, or roughly 1/3 of the state student population. We serve our members in 3 different ways. We offer business services, learning services, and then network and advocacy. When you think of our business services, one of the main things people think of is our cooperative purchasing. Our cooperative purchasing is where we work with vendors to negotiate prices that our districts can buy off contract. We do that in 2 ways. Through the AEPA, which is a consortium we work with 26 other states to bid those nationally, and then we award those contracts locally so that our districts can purchase off them. And we also work locally to bid people that don't have that national footprints, or businesses that don't, ideas like CI Select, Dick Blick Art Supplies. They have a local presence that our districts love to use, so we negotiate with them locally and provide that service there. We also do the P-Card. You all are participants in the P-Card. Last year you received approximately $10,000 back from that, and we were able to award school districts across the region almost $400,000. We're proud of that program. The way that works is that we pool everybody's purchases amongst those districts that participate to drive a higher rebate. Last year the pool was about $35 million. We actually have had some bigger districts again jump on because our rebate's higher than what they can get on their own, so we anticipate that pool growing this year. We offer MoReap, which is a job posting program where we own the software. It's like a clearinghouse. Whether it's a nurse, a teacher, principal, those get posted, and people in the education community kind of know that's where you go to look for it. But we also own that software and sell it to states such as New Mexico, Vermont, Pennsylvania, Connecticut, and then they use our software in the same way to post those jobs. And then we also offer comp data. Comparison data is what we do. We collect in real time for districts in the region so that they know how people are staffing, what type of salaries they're providing and benefits in real time, not a year later after the state has collected it. From a learning standpoint, last year we had over 7,300 people attend conferences and workshops. We did that through 152 professional development events. I think earlier somebody said there was 174 school days. Think about that. That's almost one every day that we're offering in some way, shape, or form. We also did 86 customized professional development events. I think we did 7 here with you all last year, where we came in, and that's where we send in our professionals to work directly with schools or district on initiatives that they have. And then we have 4 major conferences: METC, Character in Action, which I kind of hate to say is tomorrow with the impending snow, but it will go on. But then also we have the Support Staff Academy in Align St. Louis. When you think of that learning, we deliver it through 4 channels or resources. One is our own Education Plus staff. We have that staff, and that oftentimes is what will go in and do some of the customized professional development within our districts. But that's also who develops our platform from year to year to know what we're bringing in next year already this year, so that we can get those national thought leaders or other professionals under contract so that they provide professional development for the next year. Character Plus, many of you are familiar with that. But beyond just the character education components that they have, they also are working in restorative practices. That's what the conference tomorrow, that Character in Action is all around restorative practices, social emotional learning, and trauma informed. We're also the Regional Professional Development Center for the St. Louis region. We're the only one that's not connected to a university. And actually we are the largest. We hold about a $3 million contract from the state, the Department of Elementary and Secondary Education, to provide support in those initiatives that they've pushed. I heard PBIS mentioned earlier. That's one of the initiatives that's supported through that RPDC Center. METC is the Midwest Education Technology Community I always like to say conference, but it's actually a community because it's more than our conference. While our conference is about 2,000 people typically from as many as 11 different states, happens in February, that group does work all year long to help teachers and instructional staff use instructional technology to its greatest ability. But another thing we're really proud of is ISTE, which is the International Society of Technology Educators. We are one of 4 national affiliates that are they're able to certify teachers in their standards. We actually were the very first to offer that training this summer. We actually had people from Japan travel here to St. Louis to receive some of that certification training from our staff. We actually have the first 2 ever certified individuals on staff at EdPlus. So that's something we're proud of and will continue to grow. When you think of our network collaboration and communications, we have 30-plus groups that meet at EdPlus on a regular basis, be it the superintendents, nurses, support staff, administrative professionals. They meet there on a regular basis, and while it doesn't seem like much, them knowing that they have a space to meet, coffee, tea, maybe some water, and something that they can have as their own is important. We also work with them on their listservs to make sure all of their community are aware of that. We also provide kind of responsive networking. Last year after the Parkland tragedy, we were able to get all of our education leaders in a room with our sheriffs, police chiefs, and others so that we could have a real open dialogue about how we move forward from that. Because we had parents that were upset, kids that were upset, teachers that were upset, and we needed to have a regional direction. While it may look slightly different in every community, as a region we needed to come together. We followed that up with just an educational leaders forum that allowed us to kind of craft how we could move forward. And then we offer communication, graphic design, and video support. From an advocacy standpoint, we adopt a legislative platform every year for the St. Louis region. The reason for that is oftentimes, while it's very close to like MSBA's platform or MASA's platform, there are sometimes things in our region that we need to support slightly different than what the rest of the state recognizes. When we think of the transfer program years ago, that was something where we needed to take a lead because the rest of the state thought it wasn't their problem. Typically, during the session, I attend legislative session every Tuesday, so I try to make sure that we have a presence from the St. Louis area with our legislators there in Jefferson City. Last year, we arranged a bus trip to the Capitol, where we had 35 superintendents gather, got on a bus together, were able to network on the way up, meet with legislators at the Capitol that day, and then network on the way home. And then lastly, I do attend local advocacy events, whether they're regional legislative advocacy committees or breakfasts or other things. For you all, last year you had 19 of your schools participate in collaborative work through the DESE Collaborative Work Grant. That's part of that RPDC that I talked about. You also have districts participating in the Missouri Model Districts this year. You have 7 principals participating in MLDS, which is the Missouri Leadership Development Series, our system. And again, that is something where we're trying to develop those new leaders and give them a chance to be mentored and grow. And you have 3 of your principals that are serving in mentor roles. That's very important. Doug Irwin facilitated the Fine Arts Resource Consortium, or FARC, for several years, and that made it a very successful PLN. And then McClure High and McClure North both participated in Gateway to Change student summits. They actually had one this week on Tuesday that I was able to attend. For those that have been on the board for a while, you may know Education Plus had some financial difficulties. 2 years, or let's say 3 years ago now, prior to me being there, we actually outspent our revenue by almost $1 million. Anybody that's served on a school board or in a school district knows you can't outspend what you're bringing in and survive very long. Through some hard work by the staff the year before I got that, they had that down to about a $200,000 deficit. Still can't survive on a deficit like that. I'm happy to say that through some continued work, some belt tightening, and some good choices about how we spend money, we actually were able to generate a little bit of a surplus last year, so we were $400,000 to the good to allow us to build back some of those resources that we had depleted. That will also give us an opportunity to continue to see how we serve our members best going forward. And why is that important? Is because we're celebrating 90 years. And it's hard for me to understand sometimes when you think about 90 years, some of the districts that participate in those 53 districts weren't even in existence when we started in 1928. And for us to think that that would go away would be terrible, because I can tell you I've had opportunities to be all around the state in different roles that I've served. There's not another region that supports one another as well as we do. Sometimes it's in crisis, Sometimes it's in happy times, but either way, as a region, we support each other really well. So what I brought with us is we had a 90th anniversary poster done that represents all 53 districts that participate. We go as far north as Silex, which is up towards Hannibal almost, as far south as below Festus at Jefferson R7, and then to the west, Warrenton and Washington. It's a big geographic region. But what that is, it represents that strength of our community as a whole. And while we all have different communities, as a large community, we really do a good job supporting each other. So I'll be happy to take any questions. That's your copy. I hope you find a place somewhere to put that. I highly recommend, if you get a chance, take a look at it. It was actually done by a school board member from Northwest School District, who was a former art teacher and illustrates children's books. And not only is there all the school districts, there are some points of interest to St. Louis that you'll recognize as well.
Thank you so much, Dr. Ziegler. Any comments?
I just want to say that Paul has done a really great job at Ed Plus. I've been here now, this is my 4th year, and Paul's not only is he an attorney, but he's also a former superintendent, so he gets the education piece as well as the law and the legal parts. But one of the things that I really appreciate is, especially when you have these national issues, that Ed Plus does a really good job at bringing people together and having conversations about those issues, issues from race to money. All those things are very important, and so I appreciate the work that you all are doing and where Ed Plus is now. So congratulations.
Any additional comments? Thank you so much.
I appreciate the time. Thank you all.
Now we will have Mr. LaRue. Mr. LaRue, can you just wait 2 seconds until they come back? Because this is really important. Can I switch recess and do it now? Yeah, I'm just making sure. We're going to go ahead and take the recess right now and for 10 minutes, and then we'll come back. Thank you.
I said, yeah, actually, I said something to Todd. He was going to look into it because Cheryl told him that we spoke to Cheryl. Adrian also had a conversation with Jane. We called Jane before this meeting, and I said something to Joe that it's been presented to us, something that we have to look into because we have some questions about. So, yeah. But at least he knows that it's been presented to us and that we're trying to get it figured out. Whatever that form or shape that takes.
Now I'm going to leave because Larry's at the podium and Larry can't get
I wouldn't blame you. She's not the only one because Tiffany wasn't feeling well either, and somebody else. Yeah, there's a few people that. Pardon me? It just started because before I walked up here, it was not. Hey, how you doing? How you doing tonight?
No, I appreciate your tenacity at going after it.
I'm ready to go.
I think that's it.
We will now begin. As soon as Larry finished cleaning his glasses.
Sorry. So this evening, I'm here to bring forward policy 4013. Currently, 4013 calls for candidates that are seeking to be board members to be placed on the ballot according to the order of filing, with the inclusion of a lottery if present ready to file by 8 a.m. on the first day. What we're proposing tonight is that this policy be amended such that all candidates who file on the first day be placed on the ballot according to a lottery, which would be an option A, or by line order, which would be an option B. This proposal is asked to be approved in one reading according to policy 4041, which is the board policy process, to have this procedure in place prior to the first day of filing on December 11th of 2018. So these two options, option A, this is based on the statute that both are identified in the 115.124, which is a revised statute from Missouri, in Section 2. Either of those options exist under statute. So the board has been presented with those two options, and we'll try our best to answer any questions. Option A is the random drawing between 8 and 4 on the first day, and option B would be prior to the first day, candidates could go ahead and line up as they used to before 2016.
So right now, I will need either a motion for option A or a motion for option B. Discussion.
So that would mean that we would go back to people hanging out at 6 in the morning to wait at the door to sign. We stopped that for a reason.
They can sit.
That was stopped years ago.
Okay, so why would, but why would we do that?
Actually, it's when the building is open up. It begins at 7:30, but yes, you're correct.
But this is where people camp out if they want to be first on the.
They can camp out. What I'm saying is, it could be days. It doesn't have to be that morning.
It could be days that they camp out before?
No, just during operate.
No.
You want to explain? During hours of operation between 7:30 and 4 o'clock is when either the candidate or a proxy would be here to maintain priority in line.
Okay, so that means that someone would be standing in line, waiting, if there are two people who want to be first on the ballot. So the old practice was people were even camping out the night before to make sure that they were first on? No. Is that not what you're talking about?
No.
So what's the difference? Maybe I'm not understanding.
If you had an interest in running the next election, just to use you as an example, if I may, you would, okay.
Just kidding.
But you would be here prior to that time, the designated time, which I believe was still 8 o'clock, to go ahead and maintain your position in the order. If you were late one day and you arrived at 8:15 and there was somebody else that was there, they would go ahead and assume the priority in that order.
Okay, so again.
It's not camping out overnight, but it is.
But the bottom line is first come, first serve is what you're saying, which led to people coming the night before, if they wanted to stand outside, to stand at the door. No. What's the difference?
We changed that years ago.
I know you did, but how is this different? If you come at 8 o'clock and I come at 8 o'clock, who's first on the ballot?
Well, no. What happens is, so if I come 3 days earlier and maintain that 3 days, then I'm first on the ballot. If you come 4 days earlier, then you're first.
If I come the same day as you?
Well, I mean, it would have to be the exact same day and the exact same time.
That's what I'm saying.
When does that clock start? Like how do you determine when the first day? Do you start that the day of filing?
No, there is no commencement. It could be a week ahead of time. There's no official beginning to when that could occur. But to be clear, no one is staying overnight. No one is
exaggerating slightly.
Oh, all right. Yes, there is no date. It could begin any time, but typically it has not.
It can start tomorrow.
No, it can actually start December 11th, the day of filing.
No, she's saying yes. See, that's what I'm saying. I'm confused.
And go all the way until.
No, Courtney.
Oh, no. As long as that first day, as soon as they file that first day, then they wouldn't need to do that any longer. It's to be first on the ballot on the first day, which would be December 11th.
You just.
But a proxy.
Nothing in the policy that says how many days ahead.
Correct. There is nothing that says
you're right.
ahead of December 11th when people would want to go ahead and line up.
So you could have a proxy come 3, 4 days or 5 days and line up for you.
That is correct.
But they have to be there.
That's correct. You know what? Every day.
Every day that the school
why would we-
or the district is in operation.
Okay, help me to understand why this is better than option A. Please help me to understand that.
Well, it puts grease in the game for somebody who really wants to be the first on the ballot. And what really caused us to look at this, we didn't know the state statute, but what we were looking at was the fact that you had individuals who definitely made it clear that they wanted to run for the Board of Education, and they would show up on the first day of filing and then put their name in, and then you'd go 1, 2, 3, 4. And then all of a sudden on the last day of filing, at 1 minute before, you had somebody run through the door and dropped off their application, and then they become last on the ballot.
Okay.
And the belief is that if you can't be number 1 on the ballot, you want to be the last on the ballot.
Okay.
What we wanted to do was revise it to allow a lottery to be done by the individuals show up on the first day of filing to pull for the first spot and then have the option to pull for the last spot.
Okay.
To try to do that. Well, then all of a sudden they discovered the state statute saying that we couldn't do that.
Okay.
So for me, if we can't have a lottery for first and last, then scrap it, we'll just go back to the old way.
What was the reason why we changed from the old way then?
I think at the time, we just,
Because it wasn't working.
no, it wasn't working. I think it
And
had to do
it's
more with the
very-
turmoil a little bit
And
in the
people are
district. We
hiding
wanted to
out
make
in
it simple.
corners, and people are hiding out in corners, waiting to run from behind doors and all that kind of stuff. I thought we were bigger than that. You know what I'm
who's running-
talking
hiding
about.
behind
You all
doors?
know
But
what I'm
seriously, but back to what you just said, Rob. You said that you wanted to make it simple.
Hmm?
So why would we go to make it complicated again if we wanted to make it simple?
It wasn't,
The reason-
it really wasn't that complicated unless the individual really wanted to be first on the ballot.
Yes.
Because I was first on the ballot and I had proxies. So I showed up several days before the opening filing, and I sat at the administration building for several hours, or I would have a friend of mine come and hold my place in line in order to do that. I'm an advocate for making people go out and get signatures, but apparently we can't do that. Other people can, but we can't.
Well, when I ran for election, I was an hour early, and somebody else was there, had a proxy a day before, and a day, 2 days before. So me getting there early didn't mean anything. I was still number 2 on the ballot, so that's why I'd rather do the lottery, because I work. I'm not gonna take off all day the day before, 2 or 3 days, and I don't have a proxy that'll do that either. So I don't like that idea. I think that did make it complicated because someone could have somebody, like you say, a week before. I think the lottery is the best thing. You come, and it doesn't matter if 3 people or 4 people are there at 8 o'clock, all you get is the same thing and you pull. So it didn't matter, you know what I mean? Or because if you get there 2 hours early, somebody might already had a proxy 2 or 3 days before. So therefore, they're going to be number 1.
And you still have skin in the game if you're there at the time of opening, and that's what we all decided before.
But you can't do
So,
that anymore.
yeah, but, okay, what's the difference with option A?
Because now, the statute doesn't allow for that.
That's option A.
Option A is anybody who
That
shows
came
up
on the first day.
all day.
Right.
Can be in the lottery.
What she was saying about putting skin in the game, making sure you're there at 8 o'clock. You know, that you don't even have to do that anymore, according to the lottery system. You know, you don't even have to make it a priority to get there. You can just like, one, you know. just
But
show up.
how is that fair to like,
Because whatever you pull, it don't matter if you get there at 4 o'clock. If you pull, you could be number one. Right. So you don't have to get there when you open.
so if
Right.
somebody doesn't have a proxy who's willing to just sit in the office for 2, 3, 4, 5 hours to hold a spot in line, I thought we were past all that. I don't even think nobody, what school district does that? We're going back, you all.
No, when we passed that policy change, we thought it was for 1 year, is when we did it. And then we found out last time that it wasn't, that the way the motion was made and it was voted on was making it permanent. But all the discussions that we had, and I remember being part of that because I was at a swim meet with my daughter on my iPhone participating, and the whole discussion was that this was a 1 year, just to make it, that one time, just to see what it was like.
Right.
So
And
when we try to come
thought that
back and
we
say,
thought it
no, we
worked.
want to revise it,
Nobody wanted to. And also, when we went and met at our Missouri School Board Association, and we talked about this, they laughed at us because they said, that's so antiquated. Why would you do that? I mean, I think any one of us who is sitting up here have skin in the game and want to be a part of this. But I don't want to have my husband, my cousin, my niece, my friend, brother, sister sitting up at the door waiting to sign up to be first or second on the ballot. I just
but it
think
doesn't
that-
bother you to have somebody come in at 4:59 on the last day of filing to get their name to be last on the ballot.
If you have a lottery, it doesn't matter.
But
No,
this-
this doesn't apply to that, because this only applies to individuals who file on opening day.
That's correct.
So if there's 3 people that show up, you pull 1, 2, 3, then somebody shows up at 4:59 on the last day, they're automatically last on the ballot.
So let me
Where,
ask you,
for me, I'd rather,
let me ask you this then.
Lottery, if you pull in.
Put your mic on.
Lottery, if you show up at the end of the day and you pull the numbers, how are they last on the ballot? Because someone that pulled before might be last on the ballot.
No, that's not what he's saying.
I don't
because you have opening days December 11th, it closes January 7th?
15.
No, yeah,
15th. So anytime between that period of December 11th and the 15th of January, anybody can come in and put their stuff there. So on day 1, that's when the lottery is held. So anybody who comes in afterwards automatically gets put in place of the next sequential number.
Yeah, the lottery only applies to the very first day.
So nobody, so that way people are just going to wait until the very last day to try to be the last on the ballot.
So with this lottery, does that mean that if the first day you pull the names and first person's name comes up and they're number one on the ballot or whatever, can the second place person then choose to be? Can we say that the second place person can be? We can't do that.
On that first day, following that procedure, they would follow the order of their drawing
Okay.
during that first day.
My only issue is that, Rob, you're saying that the person, you don't want the person to come in at the end to choose, to be the last person on the ballot, but choosing option B will not change that. That person still can do the same thing.
Okay.
So my issue, I guess my biggest concern is looking at the pros and cons. Which one benefits the community and make it a process that everybody has the same opportunities?
Because even new folk who may decide to do it the day before and don't know that this is a process, they lose out.
So Courtney, so I was hoping we could do the lottery for the last on the ballot also, but by law, we can't do that. So I guess what I'm saying is, as far as equity, I think if we could do lottery in the beginning and the end, it would be equitable. But since we can't, the beginning, to me, should look like the end, which is like if you make a concerted effort to be first on the ballot, you're going to be there. If you make a concerted effort to be last on the ballot, you're going to be there. So I'm trying to answer your question as far as equity, because if you use two different systems on both ends of the spectrum, then that's not equitable. If we could use a lottery at the end, I'm all for it.
Can we do that?
No, that's what I wanted him to do, but he said that it's a law. Can you believe that?
Yeah.
They allow it on one end, but don't allow it on the other?
Okay,
It's crazy.
but it still goes back to what Courtney said. It's still the person who wants to come in at the last hour can still come in at the last hour and be at the end of the ballot.
And that's what I don't understand. So if 5 people come in at the last minute, like you were saying, right?
They'll be fighting to see who gets the.
From what I understand, they can actually, if they don't process those people, then there'll be people left off.
What do you mean if they don't process them?
Well, it has to be processed by 5 o'clock or something. You know, this is the law I'm talking about.
Right, right.
So, I mean, it's a mess.
This is, and I think we're making it even worse, and it's also could possibly have some bad feelings toward people who are competing like that to get, and you all know that has been the history of this, where you're competing to stand in line. So, how is it equitable when if she can't get family members to sit, and she can't take off her job to go sit up for 12 hours?
Well, how's it?
So then she's out.
How's it equitable if I can't get there to be last on the ballot by 5 o'clock because I have to work?
So again, it's the same thing.
It's not, exactly. It's not equitable for me if I can't do a lottery the last day.
Huh?
If I can't do a lottery on the last day to be last on the ballot.
But that's the law. That's something that we can't do. We have a choice right here.
Never mind.
Please go ahead.
I thought last time we changed it because it's something Cindy said we had to change, and that's why we changed it. That we didn't come up with changing. But I thought she said that we had to change it to meet the lawsuit. There was something that the judge wanted us to change it. Maybe I'm wrong. Maybe that's in my brain.
If that's the case, can we table this and then find out with Cindy and the reason why the initial change was made?
Well, the reason that the initial change for the lottery was made is because there was that interest that was already expressed. Most recently, when she acknowledged the statute for the lottery is to make sure that it was in compliance, that the lottery applied for anyone on the first day from 8 o'clock until the close of business that day at 4. But why this is important now, we publish notice in local newspapers to give notice about the filing procedure, and the filing procedure then would be noted there based on our policy. So
it's based on what? I'm sorry.
Well, based on our policy, because because it is a determination that the board makes about one of those two options, the lottery on the first day, as is permitted, or by filing in line. So if the question is, to table or to delay, I don't know that is the option that really would be to the benefit of the board in the process.
So don't we have to have?
I'm sorry. This is going to deter other folks from really wanting to run for the school board. Why would it? I mean, if you want to be on the board and you want to just like have an opportunity like everybody else to be first on the ballot, and you can't take off work to do it, how is that fair to everybody? Or you can't get people to set up for you? We're just making it more difficult.
Well, we could go back to the original way, and we changed that because so people wouldn't sit out all night. And
it's the same thing. It's the same thing, except you hold your space, but then you have to come back the next day, have somebody else. It's the same thing, except you don't sit out at night.
Well, that's a huge thing.
Now, they used to have board members come at midnight or whatever, and the night before, and spend the night. And that was even before I got on, so that's how long ago it was. And then they changed it because they didn't want people to have to stay out all night, so then they came up with this of getting somebody to take your place. Of all the years, I've only had somebody take, only did that one time. So,
How did it feel?
well, I'm the one that was there when Connie wasn't, so, I mean, I was the first on the ballot, but I had somebody.
Turn on your,
It didn't matter to me where I was on, because a lot of times when the votes come out, sometimes it's not number one on the ballot that wins anyway.
Mhm.
So really, if you look at statistically, every year, it wasn't the number one person that always was the top.
And you know what, it's not so much that, because I could care less if I'm first or third or whatever. It's just the idea of how we are setting ourselves against each other. And I just think that that is just a negative way to start off a campaign. Campaigns are already bad enough as it is, and all the stuff we're going through now with campaigning, we don't need to make it worse, you all. We need to make it as simple as possible for anyone who wants to be a part of this. And if you do the work in campaign, it doesn't matter if you're first, second, third, fourth, fifth, or 10th on the ballot. So I just think that this is going backwards. I don't see it any different than us. If you said you changed it and it's line order, well, you know what? Somebody could say, well, look, I stood in line longer than you did. Or I did have somebody stand overnight, and I was 1 minute ahead of you the next day because I stayed here all night. So
You
it
have
could
to
get
sign
back
in.
to that.
They had to sign in.
Okay, does that say that we have to do that?
Well,
That was you all's rule.
Well, we still, for it to be the proxy, you still needed to sign in so we could keep track.
Okay, but was that policy or state statute?
Well,
So,
ma'am,
So we need to know.
before I try to attempt to answer,
because we could have been wrong with that
Back
policy.
then.
in this section of the statute, it does not speak to that, so, and I didn't bring the whole chapter, so I do not have an answer that would be, responsive to your question.
I do have another question. Who would be the one monitoring this proxy standing? Would we be paying a district employee to watch the coming and goings of this proxy to see if it changed?
Wow.
How would she be able to do her job and watch? And are we paying her to watch? And how much would that cost every day? Because as soon as we get the application, as soon as they receive the application from HICA, the process can actually start. And they can actually stand in line for almost 3 weeks of filing. And are we expecting HICA to sit there and watch and check and see if somebody
left to go
leaves,
get
if somebody
lunch?
comes, who's coming? And then in addition, the location is changed. We're now in a school. Who is monitoring coming in and out of our school building with all of these proxies and people covering?
We have not gone to the level of scrutiny, I believe, that was asked about watching. It was somebody would sign in, we would designate a room for them, for the individual or the proxy to stay during that time. And then I think usually that they would check out before 4 o'clock or at the time of close.
Does the time start when you walk through the front door?
They needed to be here by 8 o'clock. If I
Okay,
remember
so if I'm here at 8, I can't walk up the stairs. You're here at 8, Rob. You run up the stairs. I got to take the elevator. How's that fair to me?
I cannot respond to that.
I mean, it's not equitable. Could you see that?
Well, I could see me being the only person for the lottery and I'd still lose.
That's a chance that we.
But I'm.
Yeah, but someone who is handicapped doesn't have the same opportunity.
Then can't they sign in at the front here when they come through the door?
We always have a guard.
That could be a consideration.
Okay? Does it matter who parks first? I mean, it sounds ridiculous.
No, it would be actually entering the building to.
Okay, so we park first together. I can't run, he can run. I'm seriously.
So we continue with the lottery. So this is the scenario that could very well happen. 3 people come in and you throw the lottery, 1, 2, and 3. So now I know I'm going to be number 3. I don't want to be number 3. So I'll come in the next day and I'm going to withdraw my application.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
But now I'm going to come back in on the last day at 4:59 with 4 other people as we're rushing through the door and we're tackling each other and we're leaping over everybody to get our application. It's really no different than what you're saying now with the being first.
Right, and
that's stupid, right?
Right. So let's just,
exactly.
Let's just go back to the old way. Why not? Just stay in line. And honestly, when I did it with as an option with when I had proxies, typically you come in, you're like, oh, you already have your proxy. I just move on. I just drop my application off. If you're willing to do that.
No, but I'm not. I want to be first.
Then you'll get your proxy and you'll, like any other campaign, you'll get the volunteers together and you'll be working hard.
Then I'm going to sue you all.
Do what?
If you beat me because I'm handicapped, then I could sue you all because you are not giving me a fair advantage or a fair chance.
Sure we are.
How? If you and I come in at the same time, you're going to beat me in the door.
Well, maybe you need to come an hour earlier. Or
Even
a
if
day
I came
before.
an hour early.
I don't know when you're going to come. I don't think anybody, of all the campaigns I've been involved with, ever stood outside somebody's house and stalked them to find out when they're going to go and file.
This is so.
And the thing about it, if you go there, you get there a day and you come early, and then you find out the other person already had a proxy 3 days, it's no mute. You know you're not going to be number 1 right there.
Right.
So it don't matter.
So then you have a choice that either you can drop your application off or just come back on the last day.
And fight.
And file. So could I do what I said I would do? That if I came and I dropped my stuff off, I'm number 3 based upon the lottery, I don't want to be number 3. Could I then take my application back and hold on to it and just come back on the last day?
Given that scenario,
I would
yes,
go
you
for
could.
that.
You could take it back.
And then how will you handle if you have 4 people coming through the door at the same time?
The question
How would
was.
you handle it the first way?
Well, you couldn't do a lottery, right? Because I think Scott asked you that question. Could you do a lottery to be the last person on the?
I mean,
No,
the
you may
first
not.
one. If we come in the door at the beginning.
Yeah.
And everybody comes in at the same time. How do you do that? You're still going to be fighting and pushing over each other.
On the first day.
Okay, it could be the same. It could still be the same.
What do you mean?
You said the first day.
The first whole day is going to be a lottery.
It's not going to be, you have to be there at 8.
We're going back to you all's stuff.
What? The first day? What do you mean?
No, actually, if you really want to be first on the ballot, going back to the old way, I think when I did it, I showed up, probably like at 5:30 in the morning, is what I did. I wasn't there days before, anything like that. I showed up like 5:30 in the morning.
Okay.
And now nobody else showed up at the time.
Okay.
But the office was still closed during that time. But the office was still closed
Right.
during that time.
So I could come at 6:59 or 7 o'clock, or we're there at the same, okay, say I came at 5:30, 5:31. They don't know that. So do you and I fight to get through the door?
I would hate to think that would happen.
Just like.
But of course,
for the
anything
last-
in life, if you were that serious about and that physical and aggressive about wanting to be number one on the ballot, I
You
guess
brought
that
it
could
up for at
happen.
the end.
I don't think that would ever happen. Most people would come up and say, oh, you're trying to be first on the ballot? You're like, yeah. And the person would just walk away.
Okay,
and
so
just come back
what's
at
the
8 o'clock.
difference? Because you made it sound like if you're last on the ballot, you're going to run in and fight. What's the difference between
No,
running in and
you're the
fighting?
one that's saying that. I don't think it's going to, I have more respect for human nature that they're not going to do that. But I do know that we had somebody come in at 4:59, driven by somebody else, to throw in their application at the last minute.
Everybody has a right to do that.
Yes, they do. So let's just start it at the very beginning. Let's just, whoever really wants to be number one on the ballot to get their proxies. And then if you can either choose to be second, third, fourth, or fifth. If you want to be last, then hold on to it, and then you can find out what happens at 4:59 on the last day of filing.
So are you saying?
Either way, it's not going to solve, keeping it with the lottery is not going to solve that problem.
So, wait a minute, you're confusing me.
How's that?
Are you saying go with the lottery up front? Are you saying go with proxy?
I made the motion for option B.
I'm asking
That's
you.
That's proxy. Well, I mean, it's
Yeah, I
not
know.
really proxy, just who's ever first in line, then you have to have your proxy.
Which means
So-
exactly that. People
Or,
who
I
want
mean,
to be first.
or you can stand there yourself for however many days, your choice.
Okay, all right. Well, you all have already made up your mind about this, so.
Well, yeah, I made the motion.
No,
Why
I mean
should it
before
surprise
this.
anybody?
Can I ask a question? So let's just say the first day, there's 2 people there at 8 o'clock, and then 3 or 4 people come in during the day. So at the end of the day, I don't remember how many people it said. Let's say there's 5 people at the end of the day. And
At the end of the first day or
end of
the
first
last day?
The end of the first day.
If it's under the option A.
With the lottery.
Okay.
And so we draw, and I get, so do we sign up and go through all the paperwork first? Or do we wait till the end of the day?
You go through the regular process where you go ahead and submit the paperwork. Upon doing so, you would be given a ticket to go ahead and draw. Or some numbering, and it's in the order of. So somebody that came in at the very end of the day could be the first one on the ballot for that day.
But it's the same day.
Yes, on the
I just
first
wanna
day,
make sure
that is
I
correct.
understand.
Okay,
The last person could be the first one to still make it on the ballot. That's correct.
So we go through the lottery process, and I get number 5, and I decide that I don't want to be number 5. I then, right at that time, I can just say, I'll come back.
That was not spoken to under the MSBA teleconference that Heike and I sat through a couple of days ago on this very matter, but I did not hear anybody across the state to ask a question, because there were plenty of questions asked, that suggested that what you described would be incorrect, that somebody would still be able to withdraw if they so chose.
Right at that time.
Correct.
Did anybody by any chance say that they're using this system? Or it's more people using lottery? Because that's what we understood, that people were.
I did not get an impression from anybody that was participating in that conference that stated one way or the other. I believe, I don't recall that was even a consideration in the discussion, so I don't know.
All right, if there's not any more discussion, let's go ahead and call for the vote.
Okay.
It was Scott seconded.
As for option B, which is the line, yeah. Mr. Heber?
Aye.
Dr. Burns?
No.
Mrs. Thompson?
No.
You?
Dr. Mullins, Secretary votes no. Mr. Chabot? Aye.
President votes no. Yeah, so, motion is, declined. For option B. May I get a motion for option A?
I motion that option A.
Any more discussion? Call for the vote. Yes, motion carries. All right.
Thank you.
Thank you so much, Larry. Sorry about that.
It was fun.
The 3-year terms of Ferguson Florissant School Board members Leslie Hogshead and Constance Connie Harge expire in April 2019. Declarations of candidacy must be picked up in the office of the superintendent at 8855 Dunn Road, Hazelwood, Missouri, from 8 a.m. to 4 p.m. on the days the district is open. Under Missouri law, the first day to file as a candidate is Tuesday, December 11th, 2018. Filing closes at 5 p.m. on Tuesday, January 15, 2019. School district offices will be closed Monday, December 24th, 2018 through Friday, January 4th, 2019. The annual election for the Board of Education is Tuesday, April 2nd, 2019. A person who wishes to file for candidacy for the Board of Education must be, number 1, a citizen of the United States, number 2, at least 24 years old, 3, a resident taxpayer of the school district, 4, a resident of the state of Missouri for at least 1 year. In addition, the candidate must follow these procedures. Number 1, file a declaration of candidacy, and number 2, filing pursuant to District Policy 4013. The Ferguson Florissant School District Board election in April 2019 will be conducted by cumulative voting, a change ordered by the federal court. In cumulative voting, voters cast as many votes as there are seats. Voters are not limited to giving only one vote to a candidate. Instead, they can give their votes to one or more candidates. For instance, in this election, for 2 open board seats, voters could choose to give one vote each to 2 different candidates, or both of their votes can go to a single candidate. Oh my God, we're just not hitting the consent agenda. Oh. All right, can I get a recommendation to, Board Secretary, can you read the disbursements for us?
For payroll for teachers and non-teachers, $7,890,824.76. Operational disbursements is $1,859,531.93, making a total of $9,750,356.69.
May I get a motion to approve the consent agenda as presented? All right. All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? All righty. Now we will have Ms. Best talk about the summer school 2019 preliminary budget for approval.
Good evening. In an effort to begin planning process for summer school for 2019, District Administration is asking the Board of Education to approve a preliminary budget for summer school. This approval will allow for the hiring of summer school planners, and programming needs to be developed in preparation for planning successful experiences for our students needing remediation and credit recovery, as well as those students seeking opportunities for enrichment and credit advancement. Summer school will provide these opportunities for both elementary and secondary students across the district. We are seeking preliminary approval in the amount of $250,000. The district will again collect ADA funding for students participating in summer school and summer school programs, which will contribute to the overall local funding. The state application for summer school will come available in February or March of 2019. However, it's our desire to be planned well in advance of the application coming available. So the recommendation is for the board to approve a preliminary budget for 2019 summer school in the amount of $250,000 to allow for planning and preparation to begin.
May I have a recommendation? Any discussion? All in favor? Aye. Any opposed? Motion carries. All right, we have Ms. Best one more time talking about the high school block scheduling update.
Thanks.
And this is just for board information.
Yes, just for board information. Just wanted to give you an update on where we are with high school block scheduling, and then next month I'll come back with middle school scheduling. Work has continued in preparation for our high schools to transition to an 8-period AB day block schedule for the 2019-2020 school year. Preparation includes professional development for staff on instructional leadership team days, or ILT days, as well as convening of the advisory and four-year planning subcommittees. To date, these two committees have made a recommendation for a change in graduation requirements that will come before the board at a later date, and they've also began planning for the advisory schedule. High school teachers, counselors, and administrators have been part of this planning and will continue this work throughout the school year. Next steps include developing the content and structure for the advisory program, eliciting student and parent voice, and developing a professional development plan for training teachers on working with students in the areas of college and career readiness, social emotional learning. And advisory will include the components that also support CI3T, our comprehensive integrated three-tiered supports framework, which will encompass academic and social emotional universals and interventions for all students during the school day.
All right, is there any questions for Tiffany? Ms. Bess? All right, hearing none, thank you.
Thank you.
All right, we will now have Kevin discuss the restructuring timeline. Once again, this is for board information only.
Good evening, Board.
Good evening.
As Dr. Davis shared, let me grab this mouse. Well, maybe I'll use the trackpad, sorry. As Dr. Davis shared, we had announced that we would publish a timeline on November 1st, and we did that. I'd like to just show you how you can get to that for people who are wanting to know. But if you go to the homepage of the website, you'll see in our global icons, one for facilities and long-term planning. If you select that, that will take you to a page that has the restructuring timeline and other information. If you click this link right here, that will take you to this timeline that you can see on that page. And so I know that all of you can read this, and people are wondering about what's going on with the snow, so I'm not going to read all of this to you, but I thought I'd give you a little information just about the big pieces that are in this timeline. It does start all the way back with August of 2016 when Berkeley Middle School opened as a 6th or 8th grade middle school, goes through the opening of the STEAM Academy, and then the work that went on a little over a year ago and all the way up to the present time. And so you see here we are in November now. Looking at that timeline, what you'll see are there are 4 groups of people who would have an interest in this. Students, obviously, those are the ones who it affects most, staff, parents, and other community members. And then if you look at all of the items that are in this timeline, those items fall somewhere in about 25 different big buckets. And so each of those big bucket areas has been assigned to some staff or group of staff to address those issues. Design teams are forming around each of those areas, and then developing and refining the plan for implementation for each of those areas. Some of the things that are important for students are things like start and stop times, block scheduling, course selection for high school students, and so that's falling into place now. The other part of this is as Dr. Davis has mentioned, those bookends, and he talked about that again tonight. So you can see that coming up here in this month, there's work towards designing a pre-kindergarten to 2 program based on current programs and other pieces there, developing the pre-kindergarten admission process. On the other end of that bookend is the piece with the Innovation School and all the work that's going on to build out that program. There are, while people have shared that there are challenges and it's difficult with all of the changes going on, these 2 pieces are huge when it comes to opportunities and success for our students for years to come, because we're concentrating our efforts on those early education programs and on, especially, for instance, with this innovation piece for high school students, to help students who may not successfully navigate a typical comprehensive high school. This will give them access to some other programs as well. So these are all things that need fully fleshed out, even though the team has been working on things for quite a period of time. You know, I think people thought, well, there would be all this work that would go through up until the point when you voted, and then things would just happen. But when that vote happened, then a switch was flipped, and now people are in even higher gear trying to get these pieces together. And so you can look all the way through other exciting pieces that are in here coming up in January. Will be parent access through eLink, where you can put in your address and you'll be able to see which school, which bus route, what time the bus picks up, all of those pieces that parents need to know to be able to have more clarity and to be able to feel more comfortable with this. It would be great if we could just have everything instantly done now and people could just kind of take a breath and be ready to go in August, but there's a lot of work to do between now and then. And so this lays that out. There have been a few things that have adjusted even in the last 14 days since we published this. There'll be others that I'm sure timing may change. There will be lots of pieces that will be added to it as we go forward. But I think the other part of this where people have some anxiousness about the process is staff members also wondering where they're going to end up. And so you can look through there and you'll see there's a sequential process for administrators in buildings and teachers and other support staff in buildings, so that all of those people are in place. And hopefully sooner than later that will all happen. I've spent more time telling you about it than I thought I would. There's lots there. Probably the better thing is for me to ask you what questions you have.
This is for board discussion. Questions? Concerns? Thank you so much, Kevin.
You're welcome. Thank you.
All right. I would say the meeting is adjourned. Everyone, please get home safely. The roads are starting to get bad.
Happy Thanksgiving.
And happy Thanksgiving.
No snow day.